Dear students, today we are going to discuss sustainable development goals and United Nations. Dear students, first we will try to understand what is sustainable development goals. The sustainable development goals represent a shared vision and commitment by the international community under the leadership of the United Nations to address the world's most pressing challenges and build a more sustainable and equitable future for all. The UN plays a central role in facilitating, implementing, monitoring progress, and promoting collaboration among nations to achieve these sustainable development goals by 2030. Sustainable development goals were developed through a highly consultative process led by the United Nations. These goals were built upon the Millennium Development Goals and the outcomes of various international conferences and summits. The Sustainable Development Goals were formulated to address a broader range of issues. In September 2015, all 193 member states of the United Nations adopted the 2030 Agenda for Sustainable Development, which includes the 17 Sustainable Development Goals and 169 targets. This adoption took place during the UN Sustainable Development Summit held at the UN headquarters in New York. Following the adoption of Sustainable Development Goals, member states committed to integrate these goals into their national development plans and policies. This integration process involves aligning domestic priorities and strategies with the targets and indicators or goals of the sustainable development to ensure coherent and coordinated action at the national level. Dear students, now we are going to discuss these sustainable development goals which were adopted by the United Nations. As I told you that sustainable development goals are a set of 17 global goals adopted by the UN in 2015 as a part of the 2030 Agenda for Sustainable Development. So means these goals are basically a universal call to end poverty, to protect environment, to ensure that all people enjoy peace and prosperity by 2030. Now we will discuss these goals in detail. The first goal of this sustainable development is no poverty. Means the objective of the first goal is to end poverty in all its forms from everywhere. So, the target of the first goal is to eradicate extreme poverty, implement social protection systems, ensure equal rights to economic resources. The second goal is zero hunger, means to end hunger and achieve food security and improve nutrition and promote sustainable agriculture. So, the target of the second goal is to end hunger and malnutrition, increase agricultural productivity and incomes of small scale food producers, ensure access to safe, nutritious, and sufficient food for all. The third goal is good health and well-being. So third goal is to ensure healthy lives and promote well-being for all at all ages. So it tries to reduce maternal and child mortality. It tries to end epidemics like AIDS, malaria. It tries to achieve universal health coverage. The fourth goal of this sustainable development is quality education. Means to ensure inclusive and equitable quality education and promote lifelong learning opportunities for all. So, the main target of the fourth objective is to ensure access to free, equitable, and quality primary and secondary education. Increase the number of youth and adults with relevant skills for employment and entrepreneurship. Eliminate gender disparities in education. The fifth objective is gender equality. Means to achieve gender equality and empower all women and girls. So, ending all forms of discrimination and violence against women and girls, ensuring equal participation and leadership opportunities in all spheres of life, eliminating harmful practices such as child marriage and female feticide, etc. Clean water and sanitation. So, the objective is to ensure availability and sustainable management of water and sanitation for all. Means to achieve universal access to safe and affordable drinking water, to ensure access to adequate and equitable sanitation and hygiene, to improve water quality by reducing pollution and increasing water use efficiency. The seventh goal is affordable and clean energy. Means to ensure access to affordable, reliable, sustainable, and modern energy for all. To ensure universal access to affordable and reliable energy services, increase the share of renewable energy in the global energy, enhance international cooperation in research and technology transfer for clean energy. The eighth goal is decent work and economic growth, means to promote sustained, inclusive, and sustainable economic growth, full and productive employment, and decent work for all. So, the target is to achieve full and productive employment, a decent work for all, to promote inclusive and sustainable economic growth, to enhance the capacity of developing countries to develop resilient infrastructure and promote sustainable industrialization. The ninth objective is industry, innovation, and infrastructure. Means to build a resilient infrastructure, strong infrastructure, promote inclusive and sustainable industrialization, and promote innovation. So, the target is to develop quality, reliable, sustainable, and resilient infrastructure, to promote inclusive and sustainable industrialization, to increase access to information and communication technologies. The 10th goal is reduce inequality, means to reduce inequality within and among countries, to empower, to promote the social, economic, and political inclusion of all, to reduce inequalities of outcomes, including through fiscal, wage, and social protection policies, facilitate safe, regular, and responsible migration and mobility of the people. The 11th objective is sustainable cities and communities. Means make cities and human settlements inclusive, safe, and sustainable. So the target is to ensure access to adequate, safe and affordable housing and basic services, making cities inclusive, safe, resilient and sustainable, strengthening efforts to protect and safeguard the world's cultural and natural heritage. The 12th objective is responsible consumption and protection, means to ensure sustainable consumption and production patterns. So the target is to achieve sustainable management and efficient use of natural resource, to promote sustainable public procurement practices. So the 13th objective is climate action, means to take urgent action to combat climate change and its impacts. So the target is to strengthen resilience and adaptive capacity to climate related hazards and natural disasters, to integrate climate change measures into national policies, strategies and planning, to improve education awareness about climate change mitigation, adaptation, impact reduction, and early warning. The 14th objective is life below water, means to conserve and sustainably use the oceans, seas, and other water resources for sustainable development. So, the target is to prevent and significantly reduce sea pollution, protect coastal ecosystems, regulate harvesting to ensure sustainable fisheries. Life on land, means to protect, to restore, to promote sustainable use of terrestrial ecosystems. Sustainably manage forests, combat desertification, and halt and reverse land degradation and halt biodiversity loss. So, target is to halt deforestation, restore degraded forests, combat desertification, and restore degraded land and soil. So, take urgent action to end poaching and trafficking of protected species. 16th objective is peace, justice, and strong institutions, means to promote peaceful and inclusive societies for sustainable development and to provide access to justice for all and build effective, accountable, and inclusive institutions at all levels. So, the target is to reduce violence and abuse and exploitation, promote the rule of law, and ensure access to justice for all. The last sustainable developmental goal is partnerships for the goals, means to strengthen the means of implementation, to strengthen global partnership for sustainable development. So, target is to mobilize financial resources, enhance technology transfer, promote trade cooperation, and build capacity for sustainable development. So, dear student, these 17 sustainable development goals form a comprehensive and interconnected framework for addressing the world's most pressing challenges and building a more sustainable, equitable, and prosperous future for all. Each goal is accompanied by specific targets and to track progress towards achieving them by 2030. Dear students, now we are going to have a look at the progress made in order to achieve the sustainable developmental goals. First, let's have a look at the first goal, that is no poverty. Significant progress has been made in reducing global poverty. Since 2000, the proportion of people living in extreme poverty has declined from 36 to 9% in 2020. For example, countries like China and India have lifted millions out of poverty through economic growth and targeted poverty alleviation programs. Look at the goal, second goal of this sustainable development, zero hunger. Overall, there has been progress in reducing hunger globally, with the number of undernourished people declining. However, challenges persist there, particularly in regions affected by conflict and climate change. For example, efforts such as improved agricultural practices, increased food production, and social safety nets have contributed to reducing hunger in many countries. There has also been significant improvements in global health outcomes, including reductions in child and maternal mortality rates. Has been increasement in access to essential healthcare services, and progress has been made in combating infectious diseases. For example, global initiatives like the expanded program on immunization have contributed to significant reductions in child mortality by increasing access to vaccines. Similarly, progress has been made in increasing access to education, particularly at the primary level. However, challenges remain in achieving quality education for all, including disparities in access, quality, and completion rates. For example, efforts such as the Education for All initiative and the provision of scholarships and school meals have helped increase school enrollment and retention rates in many countries. Similarly, there has been advancements in promoting gender equality, including increased political representation of women, improvements in girls' education, and greater awareness of gender based violence. For example, the adoption of gender quotas in politics and initiatives promoting women's economic empowerment have contributed to narrowing gender gaps in various sectors. Similarly, significant progress has been made in increasing access to improved water sources and sanitation facilities globally. However, challenges remain in ensuring access to safe and sustainable water and sanitation services for all. For example, investment in water infrastructure, hygiene promotion campaigns, and community led sanitation initiatives have helped to improve access to clean water and sanitation in many regions. Similarly, there has been rapid growth in renewable energy adoption with increasing investments in solar, wind, and hydropower technologies. However, fossil fuels still dominate the global energy sector, and energy access remains a challenge in many developing countries. For example, countries like Germany and Denmark has made significant progress in transitioning to renewable energy sources, with renewable accounting for a substantial share of their energy consumption. Dear students, similarly, progress has been made in promoting decent work and economic growth, including reductions in unemployment rates and advancements in labor rights and protections. Similarly, significant progress has been made in promoting decent work and economic growth, including reductions in unemployment rates and advancements in labor rights and protections. There has also been investments in infrastructure, technological advancement, and innovation, which has contributed to economic growth and development. However, disparities in infrastructure access and quality persist, and particularly in rural and remote areas. Their students' efforts have also been made to reduce inequalities within and among countries, including through social protection programs, progressive taxation, and policies promoting inclusive growth. However, income and wealth inequalities remain high, posing challenge to sustainable development. For example, countries like Brazil and South Africa have implemented cash transfer programs and progressive taxation policies to reduce income inequalities and improve social inclusion. Similarly, there has been progress in promoting sustainable urbanization, including investments in infrastructure, housing, and public transportation. However, challenges are there in addressing urban slums, pollution, and inadequate urban planning. Efforts has been made to promote sustainable consumption and production patterns, including resource efficiency, waste product reduction, and recycling initiatives. However, consumption levels continue to rise, leading to environmental degradation and resource depletion. Similarly, if we look at the climate action, there is growing awareness and action on climate change with increased investments in renewable energy emissions reductions targets and international cooperation. However, greenhouse gas emissions continue to rise and climate impacts are becoming more severe. For example, the Paris Agreement adopted in 2015 brought countries together to commit to limiting global warming and enhancing climate resilience through nationally determined contributions and climate finance initiatives. Similarly, efforts has been made to conserve and sustainably use water resources. Similarly, there has been efforts to protect and restore the earth, including forest conservation, land restoration, and biodiversity. Okay, dear students, similarly, efforts has been made to promote peaceful and inclusive societies in order to strengthen the rule of law and build effective and accountable institutions. However, challenges such as conflict, corruption, and human rights violations persist in many regions. For example, peace building initiatives, conflict resolution mechanisms, and anti corruption measures have helped to reduce violence and promote stability in conflict affected areas. There has been also increased international cooperation and partnerships to support sustainable development efforts, including development aid, technology transfer, and capacity building initiatives. For example, public private partnerships, multi stakeholder platforms, and international development assistance. So, these have facilitated collaboration and resource mobilization for sustainable development projects and initiatives. So, dear students, we can say that significant progress has been made in advancing the sustainable development goals, but there are still many challenges. These challenges are like persistent poverty and inequality. Despite progress, poverty remains a significant challenge, especially in developing countries. Economic inequality, lack of access to basic services, and discrimination increased poverty rates. Therefore, hinders efforts to achieve goal number one, that is, no poverty. Similarly, there is a challenge of climate change and environmental degradation. Climate change poses a grave threat to sustainable development, leading to extreme weather events, sea level rises, and biodiversity losses. Environmental degradation, including deforestation, pollution, and habitat destruction, also increased these challenges, therefore, undermining progress towards goal number 13, that is climate action, and goal number 15, that is life on land. Health crisis and pandemics. Health crises such as COVID 19 highlight the vulnerability of healthcare systems and underscore the importance of Goal 3, that's good health and well being. So, limited access to healthcare, inadequate infrastructure, and lack of medical supplies and vaccines increased health disparities, particularly in low income countries. Similarly, there is still the challenge of education disparities and quality. Disparities in access to quality education persist. particularly for marginalized groups, girls and children in conflict affected areas. Inadequate funding, teacher shortage, inadequate infrastructure prevent efforts to achieve goal number 4, that's quality education, therefore undermining the prospects for equitable and inclusive development. Similarly, there's a problem of food insecurity and malnutrition. Despite progress, millions of people around the world still suffer from hunger and malnutrition, particularly in regions affected by conflict, climate change, and economic instability. Inadequate agricultural productivity, food wastage, and unequal distribution of resources hinder efforts to achieve Goal 2, that is zero hunger, and Goal 12, that is responsible consumption and production. Water scarcity, inadequate sanitation facilities, and poor hygiene practices also pose significant challenges to human health, economic development, and environmental sustainability. Lack of access to clean water and sanitation services disproportionately affects vulnerable populations, therefore hinder progress towards Goal 6, that's clean water and sanitation, and Goal 14, that's life below water. There is unsustainable consumption and production pattern. This unsustainable consumption and production patterns contribute to resource depletion, environmental pollution, and climate change. Overconsumption, waste generation, and dependence on fossil fuels undermine efforts to achieve Goal 12. This is responsible consumption and production. And Goal 13, that's climate action, therefore posing long-term threats to global sustainability. Similarly, there are conflict, violence which pose threat to peace, stability, and development efforts in many countries of the world. Armed conflicts, terrorism, and civil unrest, these things disrupt social cohesion, economic growth, and infrastructure development. Therefore, hinder the progress towards Goal 16, peace, justice, and strong institutions, and Goal 11, sustainable cities and communities. Digital divide and technological inequality is another challenge to achieve these sustainable developmental goals. The digital divide, unequal access to technology, and limited digital literacy increase inequalities and hinder socio-economic development. Lack of internet access, digital infrastructure, and technological skills limit opportunities for education, employment, and innovation, therefore hindering progress towards Goal 9, industry, innovation, and infrastructure, and Goal 14, that's quality education, global governance and financing challenges. These are some other challenges which are posing threat to the achievement of the sustainable developmental goals. Inadequate global governance mechanisms, limited financial resources, and competing priorities pose challenges to implement the sustainable developmental goals effectively. Limited international cooperation, insufficient development assistance, and fiscal constraints constrain efforts to mobilize resources and address global challenges comprehensively. So, understanding these challenges is very crucial in order to understand the complexities of sustainable development and the need for collective action to overcome these challenges in order to achieve the sustainable developmental goals. By addressing these challenges through innovation, collaboration, and inclusive policies, students can contribute to build a more equitable, resilient, and sustainable future for all. So, dear students, in today's lesson, we have seen that the Sustainable Development Goals represent a comprehensive framework for addressing the world's most pressing challenges and build a more sustainable and equitable future for all. While significant progress has been made in advancing the Sustainable Developmental Goals, persistent poverty, inequality, climate change, health crisis, and other challenges continue to hinder global development efforts. However, by understanding these challenges and working collaboratively to overcome them through innovation, cooperation, and inclusive policies, We people can play an active role in achieving the sustainable developmental goals and create a better world for current and future generations. Thank you.